welcome back. We are delighted to tell you that as a special attraction, we have a very famous and very well-loved guest who will be with us in a few moments, and she, in turn, has brought us a guest who she loves very much. That's as much as I can tell you right now, but let me introduce a panel that I love very much. Peggy Cass. Bill Cullen. Kitty Carlisle. And Tom Kennedy.
I really missed mine.
Gunman, pretty good.
And with us again today and all this week is Tom Kennedy, and we're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you, Barry. Good to be here.
Tom, in addition to all of your hosting work, you've done a lot of panel work. Which do you prefer, being on the panel or being host?
Oh, boy, being the host. This is just nerve-wracking to me.
Is it?
It really is. I guess if I did more of it. But I'm so grooved in on, sitting around saying hi there and let them carry the load that...
The nice thing about being the host is that you get to talk a lot, but you don't have to say much. You know, if you hang around...
I had never heard it put so succinctly.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we better go to work, and this really isn't work because we've got a gal here who is known to anybody who owns a radio set or a television set, and she is not a contestant, she's a guest, Dr. Joyce Brothers. Joyce, it is good to see you, but I'm not surprised to see you because it seems to me that every time I turn on my television or my radio, either you're there, David Frost is on the way, or Barbara Walters has just left. So what is the secret of such unbounded energy?
Well, I think really, basically, I wasn't meant to work. I still have a mental image of myself sitting on a chaise lounge and eating chocolates. But the way I do manage to get the work done is to use a psychological principle called goal gradient. And that is...
Gold gradient?
Goal gradient. As you get closer to the goal, you speed up, you make fewer errors, and you get an extra spurt of energy. So I break up anything I have to do into small packages, so I get a feeling of accomplishment. I get this goal gradient, and that works.
In other words, accomplish what's to be done at that moment and then worry about the next thing next.
Yeah, not an enormous thing. For example, if you're doing the dishes, get all the silverware done first and all the glassware done and so on. So you have these small goals all along the way.
Step at a time. Yeah. Well, you have a special reason for being here with us today. You want to tell our audience about it?
Yes, I brought my daughter Lisa with me.
And that's going to be our chore to figure out which one is her daughter. And like any proud mother, your position now is to go stand in front of the monitor and criticize.
Not criticize, just feel very good.
Just feel very good. Then you're going to come back and pick her out for us, right?
Fine.
Joyce Brothers. And having said hello to the mama of the family, now let us meet the young lady who is the daughter of Dr. Brothers.
Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Lisa Brothers.
Number two.
My name is Lisa Brothers.
Number three.
My name is Lisa Brothers.
Seems impossible that two of those sweet things could be lying, but two of them are lying. Here's the story of Lisa Brothers. It says, I, Lisa Brothers, am the daughter of Dr. Joyce Brothers. Although I'm not planning to give advice professionally as my mother does, I did write a column for 17 magazine advising other college girls on how to avoid putting on extra weight. You see, last year I was a freshman at Princeton, where the starchy menus are geared to hearty male appetites. After I put on a fast 5 pounds, I developed a system of eating in college dining rooms and nibbling in my room that kept my weight down. Although my mother is Dr. Brothers, many people don't realize that my father is also Dr. Brothers, Dr. Milton Brothers. So after graduation from Princeton, I intend to carry on the family tradition and go on to medical school. Signed, Lisa Brothers. And we'll get a chance to look these three lovely young things over while we pause for a message or two. Now, we have three charming young ladies here, and they all claim to be Lisa Brothers, the daughter of Dr. Joyce Brothers. And Bill Cullen, you want to take this song first?
Yes, I know Dr. Joyce Brothers very well, and I have met the other Dr. Brothers. So number 3, you say you're going to medical college. Are you going to be a medical doctor, MD? Is that what you're planning?
Yes, that's what I hope to be.
Now, I'll stay with you, number 3. Your father is a medical doctor, and he practices what kind of medicine? Internal?
Yes, he's an internist.
And number 2, Joyce is a PhD. Is that not correct?
Yes.
And she practices psychiatry.
No, psychology.
Psychology, exactly. My mistake. Number 1, I'll go with you now. After you finish your degree at Princeton and get your MD, are you going to be a psychiatrist or are you going to be an internist?
No, I'm going on to medical school.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go into obstetrics and gynecology.
That's a fast-moving field.
Certainly is.
Well, I mean, it's a very
From Bill
big
Cullen, we
field.
go to Kitty.
Number 2, how was it growing up in the household of a lady who gives advice on psychological problems to other women?
Well, she's my mother. And it was my home.
And you didn't find it difficult?
No, she's busy, as any working mother is.
But number 1, did you find it helpful that she knew all the answers?
Well, she always seemed very logical to me,
I
you know,
see.
even as a child.
Number 2, who is Dr. Goheen?
Dr. Goheen is the president of Princeton.
Thank you. And number 1, how did you find the attitude of the boys at Princeton? Were they glad to have girls, or
Yes,
had
they were.
They were glad.
Yes,
And
very
number 3,
glad.
do you agree with that?
I do to a certain extent. I think it'll be a lot better when the ratio is normal, more normal as life is.
Right. Number 2, what did you nibble in your
And from
room?
that buzzer, we go to Tom Kennedy.
Number 2, your father, your doctor father, what's his first name again?
Milton.
Number 1, who does Dr. Milton look like? Any movie actor or any famous person that you can think of? Number 3, Number 3, who does your dad look like?
Maybe Peter the Cruel with a mustache.
Peter the Cruel? I don't even
That
know.
doesn't tell us much about Dr. Joyce Brothers, but it tells us something about Dr. Milton Brothers.
Yeah. Number 2, you're going to become a doctor also, is that correct?
Yes.
Of what?
Of obstetrics and gynecology.
I'm sorry, that's right, Bill. Just covered that fast-moving field. It moved so fast it went right past me. Number 1, is it...
I'm sorry, Tom. We're going to go down
Time to say
Pagan now.
Number 2, where do you intend to go to medical school?
I'm interested in it.
I said, where do you intend to go?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'd like to go to Yale.
Thank you. Number 1, what does a cottage club, when I say cottage club, what does that mean to you?
Cottage Club?
Yeah.
It's one of the eating clubs at Princeton.
Thank you. Number 3, what famous American novelist went to Princeton?
Fitzgerald.
Thank you. Number 2, what famous American critic went to Princeton?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, Edmund Wilson did. Number 1, what are the colors of Princeton?
Orange and black.
Thank you. And number 3, what's the football team called?
I guess it's called the Tigers.
And number 3, what did you nibble in your room when you're trying to lose weight, please?
Well, all kinds of carrot foods, rabbit foods actually, carrots
You
and
washed it in the
celery.
sink and then ate it in the room?
Oh, of course, yeah, and citrus fruits also.
I see. Number 1, did you not go?
Hey,
You were never
these
fat as
gals
your
are
life
well
number
briefed,
1.
I'll tell you. And it's going to be hard. We're going to have to make up our minds. We'll take a squint while you vote. Let's take a squint at number 1, and at number 2, and at number 3. If you were the producer, you'd have to pay $50 for each wrong answer. You'd have to pay $500 if all the answers are wrong. Bill Cullen starts here.
Well, I have to agree with something that Peggy said. Number 1 looks like she could never in her whole life have been 1 ounce overweight. Not that numbers 2 and 3 do. Anyway, I voted on family resemblance, and you know how great I am recognizing faces and picking out features. I've never been right yet.
That's why
Never yet.
That's why every morning when I come into work, you say, "Here comes Steve Allen."
That's right. Very bad at faces and names. Now, if any one of those girls had a handlebar mustache, I would have recognized them immediately from the far. But I voted for number 3. She has a Joyce look to me, even without the mustache.
Okay, we got a 3 there. We're going to go to Kitty.
I voted a very definite 3, not particularly on family resemblance, but she seemed to know an awful lot about Princeton, and I think she's right about the attitude of the boys.
Oh, there you go, Tom.
Tom Kennedy so far is batting 1,000%. Let's see how he goes.
I am going to be brutally honest with you.
Yeah?
Doctor, Joyce and Milton were on my show last week, mind you, on It's Your Bet.
Yeah?
And I believe I met their daughter. However, when those three young ladies walked out, I didn't recognize them.
I checked with them before the show, and you did not meet this particular daughter.
Oh, well, thank God, because I thought I was going crazy. I looked at all three of them. I said, I don't know the child. I do not.
Those new glasses, Tom.
And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you what threw me off. I was going to go for number 3, but when number 3 said that she didn't know who her doctor looked like, on our show was brought out that he looked like either Groucho Marx or Dayton Allen. And when she said Doctor's
Peter the Cruel.
or whatever that was, yeah, I then switched over to number 1. So
Well, you may be right. You know, they're not infallible. Let's go to Peggy.
I may be.
You know, I thought number 1 looked the most like Joyce Brothers. The only thing is I didn't think that number 1 ever had to nibble in her room on carrots. So I voted for number 3. Not that you look as though you have to nibble in your room on carrots.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you, the voting's been strange this week. All right, that's the way it comes out here, and it's a wise mother who knows her own child, and we certainly have a wise mother with us. So if Dr. Joyce Brothers will come out and pick out Lisa for us, we'll appreciate it. And you ought to recognize her by this time, Joyce, I should think. It's it's number 3. All right, enough of that necking, you two. Let's find out about the imposters. Number 1, what is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Joanne Boris, and I'm a secretary for Robert Pagonic Consultants in New York.
And she has Joyce's bone structure. Number 1 has the exact bone structure of the real Joyce. Number 2, what is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Elizabeth Burr, and I'm a student at the Calhoun School in New York City.
Lisa, it seems to me that half the world comes to your mother with problems. Now, when you got a problem, can you just ask, or do you have to write in?
I definitely can ask. These girls did such a good job, I feel confused as to who I am. I feel like Walter Cronkite.
Never mistake you for that. Thank you, Dr. Joyce Brothers. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, imposters, for being with us on To Tell the Truth. Now, next we're going to hear about some remarkable trained dogs who further prove the adage that a dog is a man's best friend aside from his sponsors, from whom we hope to hear. Now, let us meet our extraordinary dog trainer.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Frank Casa.
Number 2.
My name is Frank Casa.
Number 3.
My name is Frank Casa.
They all seem to think it's true. It ain't really. Here's Frank Casa's story. I, Frank Casa, am a dog trainer. I run a unique training school. My canine graduates serve masters who are deaf, in the same manner that seeing eye dogs serve the blind. The training course runs from 12 to 14 weeks, and the dogs learn to alert their future masters to all sorts of noises. Telephones, doorbells, automobile horns, screeching tires, human voices, and the sounds of possible attackers. Our dogs will never go into the street without a specific hand signal from their master. But even if the signal is given, if the dog, for example, hears the ominous sound of a siren, he will prevent the master from proceeding. My school is called Audio Canis, which translated means hearing dog. Signed, Frank Casa. Kitty Carlisle seems to approve of the idea, so you might as well start the question.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think there can be nothing more terrifying than being deaf, particularly in New York, where you worry about attacks and so forth and not knowing what's coming your way. Number 1, how long have you been doing this?
Well, this idea of mine came about 2 years ago.
Number 2, are you the only one who does it?
As far as we know.
Number 3, what breed of dog do you train?
Oh, we train 5 different breed of dogs.
What?
German Shepherds, Dobermans, Collies.
Number 2, which is the best breed for this kind of work?
You can't pinpoint, but the German Shepherd and Collie and Doberman to prove favorable.
Thank you. And number one, how much does a dog like this cost?
The dog, there's no cost on the dog, it's on the training.
Well, how much do you charge it to get a dog like that?
Usually the dogs are owned by the people, see?
Oh, you train the dog that belongs to the... I see.
In other words, the charge is for the training of the dog, not for the buying of the dog.
I see.
Apparently, it's what number one says. We don't know. Tom Kennedy.
Number 3, if indoors, how does the dog let his master know whether it's the doorbell or the telephone?
When the signal is given, the dog runs to the master. There's not a definite point whether it's the doorbell or the telephone. First of all, a deaf person doesn't hear a telephone.
Yeah, but the
Or
dog
answer to a
does.
telephone.
Well, anyway, okay. Number 2, is this service only available like here in New York City? I mean, this type of audio canis school? It's available elsewhere?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Number 1, what are some of the cities where people might find a dog that might serve this purpose?
Well, any city would have a dog. It has to be trained.
No, I mean
Yes.
trained this way.
Oh.
Any city.
Number one's
Just try walking down Fifth Avenue and you'll in any city. Huh?
They've all got dogs.
All right, the buzzer takes us down to Peggy, please.
I love the idea of a dogless city. Number 3, the thing is, I know you don't have to provide the dog and everything, but I mean, not every deaf person happens to have a spare collie around the house or a Doberman. Don't they sometimes ask you to buy the dogs for them?
I beg your pardon, I'm a little hard of hearing. Could you repeat that?
I'm gonna kill myself on these. Listen, everybody doesn't have a Doberman or a collie around the house. Don't you sometimes have to provide it?
Well, yes, we do provide. For example, you could provide with a, what kind of dog? A Doberman or whatever, or if you wanted to provide with a shepherd, perhaps.
Okay. Number 2, if I came to you and I said, look, I want you to get me a dog and train it, and how much would it cost me? That's right down to bare facts.
Nothing.
You wouldn't charge me?
No, the dogs are usually donated.
And
You keep avoiding that question about how much it's going to
that
cost.
buzzer takes us to Bill Cullen.
Well, number 2 said something just as the buzzer sounded there about the dogs usually being donated.
Right.
I do know that the people now, to mention another, the Seeing Eye Dog Association, the Seeing Eye Dogs, they do not accept contributions. Is that correct, number 2?
Only one that I know of, and that's in Morristown, New Jersey. But there's one, I believe, in San Rafael, California. It's nonprofit, and one in Rochester, Michigan.
Now, number 1 then, is it true that a person who is hard of hearing or cannot hear can receive one of these dogs without having to pay for the dog? Is that true, number 1?
That's true, yes.
Now, how then is that your expenses, how are your expenses defrayed? Naturally, it costs you to run the school. So from where do you get the money it costs to maintain your school, number 1?
Well, there's no way at this moment. That's what I'm here for. I'd like to enlarge the school.
I see.
Huh.
I didn't hear that.
It's going to be hard. Okay, we must mark our ballots. It's kind of a mushy proposition. We must mark our ballots one way or another. Let's just take a look and decide whether we think it's number 1 or number 2 or number 3. The usual penalties apply, and Kitty Carlisle will start.
I don't believe any of those fellers are deaf. I think they're doing a wonderful job, and I think that they should be supported, and if it's supposed to be public funds, we should all give them some money.
Okay,
Good enough.
dig in.
We've got a 2
Get my
choice.
purse.
And Tom Kennedy, which way are you going to go?
Well, I think number 1 was actually overselling and was a little flip. As for number 3, so I went with number 2.
And let's go down to Peggy.
I don't think you're deaf, number 3. And number 2 looks it because he's dressed sort of like he could be a dog person. But I don't know.
What is that? Would you care to take the next half hour to explain that?
Well, he's a dog person. Never mind. I voted for number 1. I think he's truly a dog person.
Has leash marks around his neck. Is that it, Peggy? I don't understand you some days. Let's go to Bill.
No, I know what Peggy means by dog person.
You do?
Number 2 has a kind face. And I said to myself, if I were a dog, which man's hand would I lick up there? And I decided I would lick the hand of number 2. And for that reason, I also will bite it and voted for him.
Well, that's the way we've been going all week here. So far, the votes are all in. Will the real Frank Cosa please stand up? Yep. Let's go to number one. Number one, sir, what is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Rick Perry. I'm president of Como Records.
Hey, good for you. And number three, sir, what is your real name? What do you do?
My real name is Pat Anthony Zigarelli. No, I'm not really hard of hearing. I'm a retired page, and I just completed a film with The Godfather.
No, Kimmy used to be the page out here. Can you believe it?
He used to be the page out in the corridors.
I've talked to that kid 1 million times.
Frank, where does one send donations to yours?
They're good enough. Audio Connors, Post Office Box 1185, Berkeley, Michigan.
In Berkeley, Michigan.
Right,
All right, fine.
48072.
Thank you very much, Frank. We're out of time. We have only 7 seconds in which to say goodbye, so the only wise thing I can think of to say is don't get any on you. See you tomorrow. Take care.
Transportation and other consideration provided by Pan American World Airways, featuring Theater in the Air, International Flight Food Service, tours on tape, and weather insurance, all new from the world's most experienced airline. Our central characters today get a beautiful Concept 72 wig from Carousel, the amazing new stretch wig that starts behind your own hairline to show off your own hair, also the ingenious Flexicurl. Prizes or product mentions were furnished and or paid for by the manufacturers or supplier of the products or services identified on this program. This is Johnny Olson speaking for To Tell the Truth, a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.